Hello, everybody. This is Bob Ost, Theater Resources Unlimited, and welcome to our Friday community gathering. This is Friday, September 4th, heading right into a Labor Day weekend. I wasn't sure whether to do a Labor Day weekend community gathering, but we have 61 people here, so I guess none of us are going away. We're all here. So welcome, everybody, and we've been doing these every week to try to minimize the feeling of isolation that a lot of us have. We bring the community together. At the end of our discussion with Wes, Shelley, Molly, and Rusty, I'm also going to put everybody into breakout rooms if you hang out from 6 to 6:30. So you'll actually be able to network with each other then as well. We've been talking about, I don't know, something's going on. It's called COVID. Have you heard of it? It's a pandemic. So we're all in a situation right now where we are making a big adjustment in our lives. Probably the biggest adjustment any of us have made in our entire lifetime. We are quarantining, we are social distancing, we're learning all sorts of skills that we never thought we would need, including Zoom. And we're trying to get through this as gracefully as we can. It's frustrating. It feels very limited to be in isolation and to have to socially distance. The one thing I want to just remind everybody is that look at the long term of this. What we do now will enable us to have something closer to normal later on. We don't want to move too fast, but we want to stay safe. We want to stay healthy. I know there are places in our country where people are not being as careful. And unfortunately for the rest of us, that may prolong this whole situation we're in. I do want to just say a little word about make sure you have a plan for voting, whether it's a write-in ballot or whatever it is. Just make sure that you're registered and make sure you're able to vote and make sure we're able to create the world we'd prefer to live in. So that said, I'm going to introduce my speakers, my panelists. They come in pairs. Who knew? They come in pairs as we talk about socially distancing, and I have two couples, well, it's just as close and cuddly as they could possibly be. Wes, Hyler, and Shelley, say hello, and then I'm going to ask Molly and Rusty to say hello as well. And I'm going to make sure people don't go on the stage. All right. So Wes and Shelley, say hi, introduce yourselves, and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hello, everyone. Shelley and I are both theater directors, and I'm also a writer and a creator. And over the summer, we are here because we started feeling, how can we recapture the live experience of theater during this time of COVID? And what does sort of liveness mean in terms of the theatrical experience? And one thing that we came up with is that it's a sensory experience. So it involves smell and scent and sight, and it's a tactile experience. It's an analog experience. And so to creating this company called Artistic Stamp, which delivers interactive plays through the US Postal Service. We just announced our opening on Tuesday, and we put tickets on sale till September 21st, when we'll start sending out these plays for these 4-month-long adventures.
Now, when you say plays, what is it that they get in the mail? Is it an actual play that they read?
So they begin to interact with the character. So they get, over the 4 months, they get 7 handwritten letters from the perspective of that character, and they write back, and however they write back.
Oops, lost you.
There's some choose your own adventure aspect to it. There's some escape room aspect to it.
There's some role-playing game aspect to it. There's some interactive theater aspect to it.
But the playwright has figured out the arc, but with many branches. But then I'll say, maybe this is too into the weeds right at the top, but we have actors involved so that the actors are handwriting the letters. And part of their job is to actively be listening to the audience member. So if you respond to the letter that you've been given with certain specific things, the actor will then respond to that and then thread it back into the core of the story.
And we're producing 6 shows by 6 different playwrights for our inaugural season.
And to what degree are they written?
So the whole storyline is written. I mean, I've done a lot of work in circus, and in some ways I think of it like a clown act, in the sense that a clown act has their beginning, middle, and end of their act, right? Every performance, they basically have the same act, but whoever the audience volunteer is going to change greatly how that act goes, because what that audience volunteer gives the clown, they're going to take that, they're going to adjust, they're going to change the act based on that. So basically, the playwright created the act, and the actor is the clown who's changing what they've been given based on every audience volunteer. But then also the playwright has written several branches. So based on the choices you make, the stories can go in several different directions.
Well, I'm going to come back to you, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what you're doing and also what you've done before. We're interested now. We're also interested in what used to be, and we're also interested in what may be later. And as we all know, that's what time is. It's now, then, and soon, all together in one song.
I think I've heard that song. Was that Sondheim? Am I?
Yeah, it is actually. So I'm not sure that was his theme when he was doing that, but the timelessness of time. Molly and Rusty, introduce yourselves to the room and tell us a little bit about what you're doing and how it is similar to or different from what Wes and Shelley are doing.
So, hi, I'm Molly Rice. I'm a playwright, a composer, an experienced designer, and co-artistic director of RealTime Interventions. Our company is based in Pittsburgh, and we create theatrical experiences that are really based in liveness, whether that's online or in real space.
Mm-hmm. And my name is Rusty Thelin. I'm co-artistic director also for RealTime Interventions, and I'm a director and producer. I produced some quirky offbeat musicals in my time in New York before we moved here to Pittsburgh. Futurity, which was a Civil War steampunk musical, and Ernest Shackleton.
Not another Civil War steampunk musical.
Oh yeah,
yes.
That genre is so played out.
So many.
Oh yeah, really.
Yeah, Ernest Shackleton Loves Me was one. Molly's play Canary, we did a workshop of it, New York Theater Workshop, with Rachel Chavkin directing and co-conceiving on that one. So that's sort of my background. And then we moved to Pittsburgh and launched RealTime Interventions to do more community engaged type work.
When did you move to Pittsburgh?
2014. Mm-hmm.
The very beginning of 2014.
So tell us a little bit about what RealTime Interventions was doing and how it pivoted when we were put into isolation.
Yeah, so we were actually right in the middle of a run of a fairly ambitious project. We had been working with a group of Afghan refugees here in Pittsburgh. They wanted to start their own food business. They'd all been here less than 3 years. And so our task that we sort of chose for ourselves was, how can theater help them do that? So we built a show around their stories in which they cooked for the audience, and they did some market research for their business as part of it. And after 3 years, they were opening their business the week of March 14th, which is when, of course, we had to shut down. So we were doing a new version of the show, which is called Karaki. So that's where we were. We were definitely in real space land, very, serving food, doing all the things you can't do with COVID. So what we decided to do is pivot very quickly. The first thing we did is ask our audience what they felt like they needed from entertainment right now. And they said some interesting things. They said they wanted things that suggested comfort, nostalgia, a lot like what Wes and Shelley were saying, tactile things that made them feel connected, but also things that were shorter than an hour. So we rebuilt our season to include 3 different shows that all fit that bill. So we're in brand new territory and really having a great time. And we do feel that this virtual programming and also, initiatives like Plays by Mail are opening up new audiences that are less comfortable coming to live theater, and it's something that is sustainable. It's an accessibility issue for some folks who are not comfortable with large crowds or who have health issues. We're really excited that this is now going to be a sustainable thread of our programming in the future.
What other programming? What are the different threads of your programming right now? Can you elucidate them?
You bet. So I can actually show you a little bit if I can share screen. Is that all right?
You're a co-host. You should be able to.
Okay. Let's do it. So one of the things we started doing was, can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay, great. Was a series of shows that are a little bit genre defying. One of them's called Associate, and another one's called Inspire. Associate is a show where we bring artists from all different backgrounds to come together and free associate in live time with an audience. And one artist is sort of lurking in the background and creates a new piece out of all of these sort of free associations. And a part of the show is the actors talking about their process, and they're working within the subconscious. And it's really about the creative process and a way to get the public involved with actors that are both national and local to make something together. And that's been a really popular show.
Mm-hmm. It's really exciting. We use the Crowdcast platform to sort of play off the audience, and while the audience is free associating along with these artists, as they're going, and the person lurking in the background uses audience, uses the things that they hear from the different artists, and at the end we have a whole new piece to present, and then we share that through social media and everything. So it's just a fun take on sort of talk show, game show, improv happening.
Yeah.
So there's two parts to it. You create it live, and then you record it, and then you share it on social media.
We create it live, and the artist who builds this piece actually builds it live within the hour and shares it on social media. So there's no recording involved.
Oh, so it's simultaneously shared.
Yeah, it's an all live show. So by the end, audiences will throw in their chat. We really got inspired by chat, which I love even right now, watching everybody, chat while we're talking. And so the audience will throw in just their free associations as the actors or the artists are associating. And so by the end, there's this pile of associations, bits of imagery, and other kind of creative detritus that another artist will form together. So when they come out on the screen, you'll see one of our what we call secular blessings that our guests co-wrote together. And then
may I just say something? May I ask, when you're not well, you actually have been showing us, but when you're not showing us something on screen, can you close the screen so we can see you? So that when we have this on YouTube, people will see your smiling faces.
Beautiful. Yeah, so here we are. So so it's been a really great way to use liveness. And West has been in the Liveness Lab, and maybe Shelley as well. Have you been kind of coming to so we were a part of something called the Liveness Lab through the Orchard Project this summer, and it was a group of about 180 artists all across the world exploring what liveness means in a time where we can't gather. And so this has been a really Associate and Inspire have really been great ways to explore what does it mean when you can't meet, and what can you do that perhaps is not quite theater, but is something that's connective and inspiring. So that's been really great for us.
Can I bring West and Shelley in, or was there something else you wanted to show us on screen?
No, I think that's great. We've got some other things, but we can talk about them as we continue.
So West and Shelley, it's your turn again. So tell us a little bit how what you're doing is different, or.
Sure. Well, I want to jump back, Bobby. You asked about sort of what background or what we were doing before.
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about that because I think it threads a little into how we got to where we are in this moment. different from Rusty and Molly. We have not been a company. We have been freelancers, particularly me. My whole career, I've been a freelance director, and specifically new plays and development of new plays and new musicals. So I was really feeling the absence of that, that collaboration with playwrights, which is one of my it's where my heart lives. And certainly I was and am continuing to do Zoom readings, watching that evolve, coming up a reading with Arena, their short plays, and they're involving OBS, and the technology is evolving, and we think that's fascinating and want to be a part of that. At the same time, directing multiple Zoom readings, there was something in that collaboration that I wasn't getting, and so and also the screen fatigue. So we're just looking to create something that gave us, honestly, as artists, the opportunity to do what we do, even though in a different format, and then also to bring something to audiences, which is an alternative in addition to the meals that they're,
Okay, so I have a question.
having on Zoom.
Well, and to jump in with Molly, what you were saying, in the Liveness Lab, it was this great thing, and a real shout out to the Orchard Project for setting it up. One of the things that we talked about in Liveness is what makes a thing live is the audience's responsibility, right? In a play, because you can affect the performance, how your reaction is going to affect the actor's performance, you have to pay attention. If you stand up or you fall asleep or you leave the theater or you make a noise, it's going to change the show. Well, that's not true in Zoom. There's no responsibility. You do a Zoom reading, people will watch while they're cooking dinner. They will watch from their car while they're driving. They don't feel an active responsibility to performance. And so we're like, well, what is that? What is a responsibility that without your interaction, the show is not the same? And this idea of doing handwritten letters, that the audience has to handwrite a response, mail that response to the US Postal Service, and their reply affects how the story goes forward, seemed to get in that live responsibility aspect. It has that danger to it. What's going to happen? People are writing me directly. This letter may be perfumed. I may have a prop from the event. I may have a seed inside the mail that I need to plant and grow and send back the leaves from my plant for the story to go forward. It allows for this real interaction.
So I have two questions.
Mm-hmm.
One question, because you're both directors, what is the director's role in the plays by post?
Yeah, well, if you track back, similar to what I feel my role is in developing a new play, right? So working with these.
So it's a
playwrights,
dramaturg.
Sure. I think that kind of an active engagement and figuring out the arc of the story is a huge part of the director's responsibility in new play development, or at least that's what I like to do. So it's that portion of it. But then for our case, we have actors who have to respond, and it won't work if they respond out of voice or they don't understand that character, and it won't work if they're not actively listening to the letter they received. We flirted with just people with beautiful handwriting, and we went away from that. We did screen for the handwriting. That is also important, but
that was the audition. Their actor's audition was they had to handwrite for us. That's how they got cast.
But it certainly it's a different function. But thinking about the aesthetic, from a director's perspective, and then working with these actors, in groups with the playwright to figure out how to create a story that is cohesive.
My mind is boggled by the director of Cirque Du Soleil's only Broadway show.
Well, Bob, I always lean towards the epic spectacle. I just sort of can't help myself. And I sort of view the director as being the epicenter of communication. So you're working with designers, you're working with actors, you're working with writers, you're working with producers. You're the center of this web, talking to all these people to make this thing happen. And because we're producing a whole season here, because we're producing 6 plays with 30 actors, each play has 5 actors assigned to it. Each actor is writing to 10 audience members. We're selling tickets to 300 shows. Each one has many directions it can go in. And all the letters have to be mailed out at a certain date. The replies have to come back within a certain time frame. It feels like we're doing this epic repertory theater. It's like we're running, the Stratford Festival of male plays.
So I'm going to ask Eric Rothman's question, which is why handwritten letters? Why not email?
It's cold. Email, I was, we've all probably cleaned up our house during COVID. Everyone had the time where you're going to take a time to clean what you never had. And when we did it, I found all these letters that I had received when I was in high school. Handwritten letters from my grandparents, from my parents, even from some ex-girlfriends. And I remembered that there was a time when I would get so excited about what was coming in the mail. If I received a handwritten letter in the mail, it was so joyous to me. I don't get excited about what's in the mail ever now. It is almost all solely bills. No one writes me letters. And emails, we're checking them. Nothing sort of special to them. Yeah.
You dropped out.
Oh, didn't you hear us now?
I can hear you now, yeah.
Yeah, so emails just don't seem special. They don't have the same immediate quality as handwritten letters.
So I'm going to ask you another question. How do you monetize something like this?
Well, we...
And by the way, Molly and Rusty, you feel free to jump in as well. This is for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll hop in when you guys are done. It's just fascinating to hear you talk about it.
So same with both of you. Yes.
We, our budget, most of our budget of any ticket sales go directly to the performers, to the actors, to the writers, and to the sort of crew, the administrative staff. Most goes to the writers and actors. By far over 50% goes to them. So if we monetize by having small audiences, being competitive with an off-Broadway ticket price, and then keeping it within a certain number that it's enough people. We have 300 tickets available for our first inaugural season. We're only offering 50 tickets per play, and we've put them on sale Tuesday. We're on until September 21st. We've already sold 60 tickets. We've already sold about 20% of our 300.
So wait, so you're telling me that each of your actors and you, who have created 6 of these different plays, are writing letters to 50 people each.
Each play has 50 audience members.
Right.
And 5 actors. So each actor is writing a letter to 10 audience members. So each actor is corresponding with 10 audience members personally and creating this epistolary relationship, unfolding the story, all the different branches that the playwright has provided them.
Do the things that happen between actor number 1 and their correspondees affect what happens with actors number 2?
No,
it's one-on-one. Really, it's really a one-on-one. There are full worlds, so there are other elements happening in that world, but it's really the one actor with that audience member.
Yeah, I see a thing. Are they writers or are they actors? Well, the thing is,
yeah, that was the next question.
First of all, they're improvising. So, like I say, in that sort of a clown aspect, or in any sort of interactive theater, even if you think of something like Sleep No More or anything like this, when you go into these one-on-one experiences, which are all of these are one-on-one experiences, the performer has to go with what that audience member is giving them. They have to react and move to that. We find that actors who have worked in that world are really facile with knowing how to improvise, knowing how to make it their own, have their own voice, and then weave back in the narrative that they've been provided by the playwright.
But you as the directors, because we talked about this before as well, are guiding them because they're getting the correspondence from the audience member. They're reading it to you. So that
it actually comes to us. It all comes to us because we don't want these poor actors to have their addresses out to the, it all comes through us. We scan it and upload it, and it goes back to our actors. So that way we're in the conversation as well, as is the playwright.
Right. So the actors go to the portal that we've created. They download the letter from the audience member, and then they write the response and mail it out from wherever they are locally.
All right. It's really something,
So
I gotta
awesome.
tell you.
It's so awesome. I'm so excited about it. And you've got some great writers too. There's a couple of things that I really love in particular about the project. And one is the voice of the actor. I mean, it's really a gift to give the actors a chance to participate in that way, I think. As you know, as someone who's done some acting, don't you think that's just a lovely sort of integration of the team? And I also really appreciate what you're saying about production, and what a huge production this really is. We're sort of feeling some of that as well.
Sure.
So do you mind if I just... What's
all are
that?
Nationally, right? I mean, you
Well,
guys are...
Yeah, so we
Waves.
are a nonprofit, and so it's a little bit of a different structure, I think, for us. And but we have a show. I wrote a show in 2003 that was called The Birth of Paper, and it was produced by the Drilling Company in New York, and it was also produced in Texas. And what was so striking to me as a writer, it was a play in which the performer was a sort of paper on which I wrote. So it was the playwright reaching out across space to sort of write through a performer that looked very different from me and communicate through the mail across long distance. And what was so beautiful is that audience members wrote to me. I invited them to write to a P.O. box at the end. They wrote to me for 2 years. 2 years after this, and it just really made me feel, and you guys I'm sure will experience, someone asked in the chat, will people lose focus, or, and I just personally really doubt that the large majority will. I think they will be so engaged just based on that. So, there were people that we developed kind of a pen pal, relationship, and it showed me that tactileness is so important. The sense that paper was an early technology for connection is just a really deep thought, for me. And also the questions about the U.S. Postal Service, which I know you guys are responding to as well. There is a magic to the post. There's a magic to mail, just like you were saying, West. And so as we've been thinking about, especially, as the Postal Service has become more and more beleaguered, we thought, well, we should produce this play again because it's perfect for long distance. And so our plan for the spring of next year is to do 4 productions of the show. We're hoping to do 3 overseas, so 1 in Afghanistan, hopefully 1 from Germany, and hopefully 1 from Moscow, and then 1 here in the US, as a way to connect Pittsburgh with not just the playwright this time, but Pittsburgh with all of these different locations. And so we've engaged a couple of partners. There's a company called City of Asylum here in Pittsburgh, which is an organization that houses writers in exile from all across the world. And there's also a great organization called Handmade Arcade, which is a crafting organization. And they have many, many members, and they're gonna make our mail kits for this. So it's really a little bit of a love letter from Pittsburgh to other communities. So we got to talking about this in the Liveness Lab, and we realized how many people were interested in the mail as a theatrical medium. And so what we are doing is it's not, I wouldn't call it a festival, because frankly, we don't have the resources to back a festival model. But what we are trying to do, and this goes out to all of you who engage in nonprofit theater and might be interested in this, is to create a national wave of postal plays that occur from January to May next year.
Assuming we still have the post office.
Assuming
Right.
we still, this might be a way to feed the mail, right? These are, I just posted our partners here. And I will post our website as well. But we would love to we already have folks from Portland, from New York City, from Texas, where else? From Louisiana, a bunch of folks who are interested in creating plays for the mail so that we can kind of amplify this strange new genre, and also support the mail, in general.
So if someone doesn't have good handwriting, is typing allowed?
That's a good question. I think it would be for our piece. For our piece, how our piece works is that we're doing a tiered system in which we have participants and we have observers. And the participants will actually open mail, but they won't send mail back. But for some of these pieces, that could be possible. It could be possible that you could write on a Braille typewriter. It could be possible that you send back, not letters, but actual objects. The sky is the limit in terms of the creativity for using the mail as a medium.
And just to piggyback, Molly, on what you're saying about accessibility too. I mean, Natalie and Valentine, one of our writers, wants us. We can't do it this season, but to work in doing letters by Braille too.
Yeah.
And this letters by mail, this interactive adventures by mail, it does allow for accessibility if you are handicapped, if you can't leave, if you are of a certain age that you feel uncomfortable going out anywhere during COVID right now. This sort of lets you have an experience that feels very immediate and is very sort of safe.
Yeah, and one of the productions that we hope to do is a pilot. Our production will be a hybrid virtual and mail play across the globe, but we want to do one as a pilot in a senior center for folks that is all mail, just based on the mail. We feel like it's especially important now, because we don't know how long COVID will last, that we explore analog technologies for folks to continue to have connection and entertainment. And there are a lot of people that just don't have access to technology, folks in rural areas, folks that are from vulnerable communities. And so we're sort of looking ahead to, could this be a medium that could serve a whole new population? So this question of accessibility is a big part of this, I think.
So just out of curiosity, are you also open to doing virtual theater as well? I mean, if it should pop up, something comes up, what would interest you if you were doing something virtually rather than by post?
I mean, I've explored that world a little bit and directed in film and TV and video. I mean, all that's possible. That's interesting. Those are all sort of projects that I think have something to add to them. But I think they all really live in the film and video world. Whenever we put something digital, there is this other performer, this other actor in the room, right? Right now, the other actor is Zoom. There's you, there's me, and there's Zoom. Zoom's always here. We can't get away from them. Zoom decides the size of my box, where we all are, right? In theater, of course, there is no other. There's the audience, there's a performer, and it's straight to them. And so I've always been attracted to the live event. And something about these plays by mail, even though they aren't at the same time simultaneously, they are live in that extent. To when you write something in mail, and then you pick it up, it's me directly to you. That letter, I chose how the words look. I chose what was underlined, what was capitalized. I chose the stationery. I chose, the script, and you're reading it all. We have a communication that's sort of a one-on-one thing.
Do you make creative choices that are specific to the piece that's being corresponded in terms of the envelope and
the paper?
Yeah, like the paper and
yeah. So the stationery is all like sourced specifically for each one. For example, there's a show called The Other, Shelley and Valentine wrote. Each piece of paper that you receive is a watercolored paper. We have over 2,000 watercolored pieces of paper because that character only writes on watercolored paper. If you receive the Ida B. Wells story, each of your letters is coming from the 1850s. So it's all on this sort of round, old looking paper. Everything has this real tactile sense to it.
By the way, tell November Christine I said my best to her.
She's phenomenal. Molly touched on it, but the gift of this project has been the 6 writers.
Will you indulge us real quick? I won't take too much time, but I'm going to share our screen quickly, just to sort of show you what we're doing here. These are our plays. This Constellation Melody, which is sort of a queer musical mystery. It's a musical in the mail. On this one, you actually receive sheet music. Ida, which is about Ida B. Wells finding her voice. The Hidden Slipstream, which is a play for young audiences. This is geared specifically for kids to interact. The Wax Box, which is a sort of dark comic mystery about nostalgia. Fall in Love in 4 Months, which is a romance, an epistolary romance, and The Otherwise, which is all sort of witchcraft by Natalie Ann Valentine. And if you come here, you can see our playwrights, Ben Bonema, November Christine, Lynn Kwan, Matt Schatz, John Suit, and Natalie Ann Valentine, all of whom are just phenomenal, and that we are in a position where we can produce these guys' work is really something we're very honored to be able to do.
How did you find them?
Well, we've all worked with them in different capacities. Matt Schatz and I did a show together through NYMF. I knew a lot of them. Ben Bonema ran the musical theater songwriting show at NYMF. November Christine won Best of Fest with a NYMF show, and then she was a judge last year. John Sood had Disappearing Man in NYMF. Natalie Ann Valentine was in the Orchard Project. When I was doing the Orchard Project, I said, put me in a room talking about plays by mail. There were all these small groups, and in the small group, I think one time it was only Natalie Ann Valentine and myself concocting this. And then Shelley, you and Lynn.
Yeah, I've collaborated with Lynn before, previously. So, to launch, and we put this together in like 2.5 months, we certainly were reaching among playwrights with whom we had a relationship, because it's intimate and it's fast, and what we're asking them to do is complicated, right? And not just a simple straight ahead thing. So we knew we needed to work with artists with whom we had some relationship for this first launch where we're figuring it all out.
And so Alexis, yes, I saw your question. These are all world premiere works, all commissioned specifically for our artistic standard.
So is the writer essentially writing an extended series of monologues? Is that the voice?
Yes, that's fair to say. But I would say they're not monologues, they're more soliloquies, because they are speaking to the audience, not to their mind.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
And they're full of questions that require a response.
Yeah, I got this letter from Hamlet the other day.
Yes,
to be or not to be. I don't know what he was talking about.
Yeah, the intent.
I say just give up, Hamlet. It's never gonna work.
Yeah, I was afraid that he had it on me. He was asking me what he should do. It was like, I don't want to tell you what to do.
So, but that could be your response. I don't know is valid.
Alexis, I see you're asking, are there multiple characters in the same play? There are.
In some of them, yes.
In some of them, halfway through, you'll receive a letter from another character, sort of commenting on it, or an outside character. And in one of them, you sort of have the choice in a branch which sort of character you want to go to.
Sort of like Cloud Atlas, and which story do you choose to follow?
Yeah, that is Constellation Melody, and that one is epic because each letter you get actually has 2 actors working together. One hand writes a letter, another hand writes Post-it notes and puts on them. The 2 actors have to collaborate, and then they mail the letter to you.
So I just want to let the room know that you can be asking questions in chat. You can also, if you open up the participants window, you'll have the option of a virtual hand raise. So I'll actually know that you want to ask a question and without having to hunt through chat. And I think that we're welcome to. We can open to questions now. Molly and Rusty, is there anything else you wanted to say?
Just in terms of the materials, that's one of the things that we're excited about, is seeing what Handmade Arcade, the makers in Pittsburgh are, we want to collaborate with them. We do a lot of community engaged works, which means for us that we ask a community, what their interests are, and then we sort of shape our work to meet those needs. And that's something that I think we're doing with Handmade Arcade. We're looking forward to meeting with a group of makers and asking, well, what do you want Germany to know about Pittsburgh? What do you want to make that to you says Pittsburgh? How do you want to connect with Moscow? Do you want to send them a scent? Do you want to send them a texture? What do you want to send? And then we will build. We have a structure for the show, but I'm really excited about that part of it, is, sort of customizing it based on what, the stamp Pittsburgh want, excuse the pun, that I didn't mean to do that, honestly, I promise. The stamp that Pittsburgh wants to place on this piece. And that's what I'm most, I think, excited about. And you had asked about some other pieces, you know, in terms of other work online, virtual work. And we did want to mention that we created a musical, well, a couple of things. When we asked our audiences what they were interested in seeing in the next few months, they talked a lot about nostalgia. And I think both of our projects are really speaking to nostalgia. But one of the things that we have been trying to do this season is to give away as many commissions as possible, because people are suffering, right? Especially in the arts community and in the world in general. So we got to thinking about childcare centers and all of the childcare centers that had closed. And we're creating an episodic piece called Sharon about a woman that works in a Pittsburgh childcare center and the complicated love that's involved in taking care of other people's children. So I'll just show you a picture. This is one of our promo pics. I don't know if you can see that. But it's a toy theater piece that's done in an episodic form, and we're commissioning the stories from real childcare workers that are out of work right now in Pennsylvania. So that's another thing that we're doing to try to respond to this moment. And then another piece that we're working on is our musical. I wrote a musical. I'm also a composer and a musician, and I wrote a true crime concert musical about female serial killers that's called Angel Makers, Songs for Female Serial Killers. And we're doing some work to develop toward an in-person off-Broadway run eventually. But in the meantime, we really want to build sort of a podcast plus. You know, I don't know if you guys know about murderinos, folks that are really obsessed with true crime. There's a lot of them out there. And we'd like to create a piece that is an adaptation of this musical for online.
Put that up there.
Yeah. So that's another thing that we're sort of doing in the meantime, with the idea that potentially, you know, for musicals, you know, if the music is strong enough that they can roll out in phases. There can be an online phase of a piece of musical work, musical theater, and then it can move to live, and then it can move to touring. So we're really exploring that as a company.
Tita, I've just called on Tita. She has a question.
Thank you. Mine is a baby question. We've had so much in our minds that it's all spinning. Could each group of you, set of you, give a really, really simple example of your interactive story related to mail? Like Joe sends a letter, the audience says this, and this happens. Or they send a seed in an envelope and this goes on. You know, really, really just a sentence for each one.
So Molly and Rusty, or either one of you, who would like to start? Okay, Wes, go for it.
Sure, I'll say the Slipstream. Hidden Slipstream is one of our shows for young audiences. So you receive a letter from Matilda. It's sort of a sci-fi adventure. Matilda has landed on this planet from another world, and she doesn't know how people dress. She says, people are giving me funny looks because I'm walking around wearing my seaweed outfit, which everyone wears on my planet. Is that what I should be wearing? And I don't know where people eat. What do you eat here? What food is good to eat? And she says, and what are these little rectangular boxes that everyone's always looking at and they seem to carry in their hands and check off? And this world is so strange to me. I was given your name to help me make sense of it. So then you would write back and you would say, no, you should wear a red shirt and brown pants and you should eat ice cream. And those are called iPhones and everyone has them. So in the next letter, Matilda will write, say, thank you. Now that I'm wearing a red shirt and brown pants, people aren't looking at me funny anymore. And I tried the ice cream and oh my God, it's so good. It's so sugary and dairy. And it reminds me of a food we have on my planet called Uka Buka. And, you know, and then she'll say, now that I'm not getting funny looks, I'm able to go to the library and research this next part of my adventure, but I need your help to make sense of it. You know, do you think I should A or B? And how the audience responds will continue the story going forward. So that's with our Theater for Young Audiences, that's the way that would work.
Molly and Rusty?
So I can speak to our piece. I mean, what I'm hoping is that, you know, it looks like from the groups that are going to be part of this national wave, that the pieces are going to all be very different. But as far as our piece goes, this is a piece in which a performer performs as paper for a writer who is very far away, and an audience bears witness to that ritual transference. That's how I would describe it. A very different tone, but similar, maybe in terms of its tactile nature.
What do you mean performs as paper?
So we can kind of do an example. So the performer necessarily looks very different from me, the writer. So we would cast someone, most likely a BIPOC performer, who is male or male identifying. And that person would perform the play, which reads as a monologue. And their pronouns, so like, for example, I don't know if you could, let's say Rusty's the performer, and remember, I'm the writer. So.
Hi, my name's Molly Rice, and I'm speaking to you from well, I guess this would be Germany, but no, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, you're in Germany. Yeah, it's confusing. But I wonder what it looks like where you are. Maybe you could open one of the envelopes that you have received and pull out some pictures and pick the one that looks closest to the one that matches where you live. That would be an example.
Right. So it takes a little while for the audience to sort of understand what this transference is, but what it's playing with, how it's functioned in the past that really works is it demonstrates that the technology of paper is not like Zoom. It actually doesn't allow for you to see the other person. So it doesn't allow for you to make those assumptions that we make about other people and what they look like. And there's a way to create a relationship with someone from far away that circumvents those assumptions and biases that we have. So there's a really interesting thing that happens in the performance of this play, that we're testing what we think this writer looks like. The writer is testing what she thinks, which is me from far away. This German audience looks like by sending pictures, you know, and we're sort of slowly getting closer to each other from far away. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, many of our pieces are things that really are very difficult to describe, which is something that we're working on as a company. But hopefully, does that make sense?
Again, Molly, that this idea of because you're not seeing someone, right, when you're writing a letter in the mail, I believe that it actually increases the empathy. There's something about receiving a letter from someone handwritten that you believe, it feels so real to you. And however, you're going to create an image in your head for that person.
Yes.
Right? You can't help but read it and start to think about the way that person looks. Now, that's entirely in your creativity. You're never going to get a picture of these characters you're writing to, but you're going to have a very strong sense of who they are and what they are. And especially some of them, like our Ida B. Wells story, where you sort of correspond with Ida B. Wells as she's finding her voice in the 1850s. I think you can't help but put yourself in Ida B. Wells's shoes because you're receiving those letters. And one thing that Shelley and I thought is that with theater, some of the kind of theater we really love is it sort of increases that capacity for empathy with the audience and the character, and that these plays by post do that same thing. They have that same potential to do that.
Exactly. You know, and it's something that video games use sometimes. There's a new, I don't know how many of you are involved. I know at least one of you is involved in XR and probably know this, but there's a whole genre of video games called empathy games. And a lot of them utilize this really curious and interesting functions to give you distance from the visual perception of the other player, or don't allow you at all to know where they're from, what gender they are, any of those things, but you're required to work with them to fulfill a task. And so you befriend them before you can even make those assumptions. And the birth of paper really is about that, is about how paper offers us. People are in the chat right now, they're talking about pen pals. It's exactly that. I had a pen pal too when I was young. And I swear we co-created each other's existence, right? In a way that we do in theater. And it was really, intimate experience, but also a very creative one. So
I want to add too about the empathy. Our whole theater company, it's part of our mission, is we create pieces to create empathy. And it's
very necessary these days.
So
it's very particular. I mean, we threw out the names Germany, Afghanistan, and Moscow, knowing that those are all places that might be fraught for some people. They might have images in their head of what they think people look like in these places. They're all places that we have connections in. And we were just Zooming with a friend in Moscow recently who was like, the one thing I wish Americans would know is that I'm a human being. Americans right now think of Russia as the evil state, and there are aspects of it that are, but there's also a lot of human beings who live there. There's a lot of human beings who live in Afghanistan who are not out to kill Americans on sight. So by picking places like that, we feel like that helps build that empathy with the other, what we think of as the other. We're trying to sort of eliminate the idea of the other through our work. So that's a big part of what we're doing.
Good luck with that. It's important. I won't be political. Murray Davis, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. I'm an out-of-the-box marketer producer, but out-of-the-box marketer. So I love what you guys are talking about, but I have a question. And I'm very visual, so when you're talking, I was painting pictures. So Wes, when you were talking about Matilda and her landing on the planet and what you guys were saying that would go out to the audience, it held my attention. And then when you had the answer, which was, okay, I thought to myself, how do you control the quality of what you get back? In other words, when you have writers who are writing the whole piece, or even if it's two people collaboration, but how do you control the quality of what you're getting back from the audience to make it hold the excitement that I had with Matilda and what you were saying she was going out to, with the answer coming back? And yeah, I mean, I think that's basically it.
Yeah.
How do you control that to make that?
It's a great question, Barry. First, let me say that in every letter that we send, we have purchased a pre-addressed, pre-stamped postcard. So there's a postcard included. So all you have to do when you read it is you can scribble down, and you don't need to stamp it, address it, anything. You can drop it in the mail and it'll come straight to us. Okay. Now, some people will write more and some people will write less.
Yeah.
And especially
Lost you.
I lost you.
year-old, they might write very little. Whereas if it's
She said she can hear you.
Oh, can you hear us, Mary?
Now I can, but there was a piece when I said, you send it out and the audience comes back, and then the most important answer, I couldn't hear.
So I was gonna say, how some will write a lot and some will write a little.
Yeah.
And with that piece in particular, there may be a 7-year-old audience member who might only jot down a few words. Or you may have a 15-year-old audience member who writes a whole big long letter about all their feelings. And when the actor receives it, it is the actor's job to, respond to that letter specifically and make sure that that audience member is seen and responded to, and they really begin this epistolary relationship before whatever the next step in the journey is.
Okay, take it out though. What about adult to adult? Because children you can get away with it because they're not going to get it. They're not going to get if it's missing a fun thing, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we can control their response. I think we can only encourage them to engage. So the truth is, you could buy a ticket and not write back, right? And that you could do that. I mean, I feel like it's self-selecting. I'm not entirely sure why you would choose this adventure, but you might.
Yeah.
But then the actor's job is still to respond to that, hopefully in a way that continues to hook you. But they say, I didn't hear from you, so I decided to do this. and it turned out this way, so they get back on the arc of the story. So we have control of that aspect of it. We don't have any control of whether they write back for sure. All we can do is encourage and engage. And I think that's part of the fun of the game. And, this is our first run of it. And we're going to learn a lot by how the audience behaves. And our playwrights are reading those responses, and they may change future letters based on what they get back. So if everybody chooses branch A and nobody chose B or C, they might add another branch because they wanted to talk about that. Or if they're not engaging with something that we think they are, it's malleable. It's that personal.
In that way, it's like
and you just answered my question, because I was going to ask, has it been a repeat business? But you said this is the first time, so you don't know yet.
This is our launch. We launched on Tuesday.
Well, what's so interesting too is that you're really you're engaging with a real community engagement model. I mean, the idea that we use behind our community engaged work is that there are enough creative ideas in the world to solve any problem, and to create a beautiful narrative. There are always more ideas, and you've got some incredible writers, and I feel like that's really important in a project like this, when you're inviting the public in. Even with things like Sleep No More, you have to create good boundaries, but at the same time you're trusting an audience to engage, and you're trusting your artist team to respond with endless creativity. And I actually really believe that beautiful work is made that way, work that people never forget because they were a part of it.
Thank you.
So are there any other questions from the room? You can feel free to put your video on and your audio and come on in and ask a question, or just come in and say hi.
Okay.
Anyone?
Oh.
Hi, Mary.
Hi.
We allowed in?
Yeah, you're all welcome to come in right now, and we're going to talk. I'm going to do a little wrap up.
I put a question in the chat for the panel.
Who has a question?
Hi.
I think. Yeah, how are you getting your audience? That is a great question, Yvette. I mean, I can just speak for us. That's part of why we are doing, oh my goodness, it turned so dark in my house. I apologize, everyone.
It turned so bright here, and then like the sun's
so strange
coming in.
That's a part of why we're doing this national wave of plays by mail, is that we want to support each other. We really feel like this is a time when, and I mean, Bob, by you having us here, and West and Shelley, by you inviting us, I feel like it's a time where folks are reaching out to each other. And that's one of the things we want to do with this national wave, is to create a website that's central to all of these pieces, to cross-promote. American Theater Magazine's already interested in doing some coverage, and we certainly will do more PR. But we really want to support sort of the entire genre, and I think in talking to West and Shelley that you have a similar motive, that there's a feeling that there might be a genre here that, is a really beautiful way to do work. And so anyway, those are some of the ways that we plan on doing them. That is to sort of centralize our PR. But those of you who do PR out there, definitely contact us and we can talk.
Katie Rosen is doing our PR, and we announced we had a write-up in Broadway World. We had an announcement in Broadway Briefing yesterday morning, and then we also have Bailey Ford doing our social media campaign. So she is handling our Instagram and our TikTok, our Facebook world, which thank goodness she is, because Shelley and I would fail. So we are seeing people coming in that way. We're both very lucky that we've had 20-year careers in New York City as directors, and we've met a lot of people and have some audience members that follow us and follow our work. And so we've been able to have people that are interested in what we're doing, and a lot of those people have come and bought tickets. Like I say, we're only trying to sell 300 for our first season, and then we want to make sure we have a small enough focus group that we get it right. And then our hope is to put tickets on sale in November or October, November, around the holidays, for a second season of plays that would start in January.
But Yvette, you're hitting on the thing that we're, as a freelance director, is something that's not usually my bailiwick at all. So that is an area that's new for us. that we're honestly branching and developing into. We think there's scalability on this. We have a couple of big ideas that have to do with pursuing kind of more role-playing gaming market, and we have a whole idea of wanting to branch into education, because a lot of people are interested specifically in the Ida B. Wells story in terms of the idea of getting to interact with a historical figure. But we are just cracking that. So we're sort of trying, and we did 6 very different adventures, partly to see what's the market for it, and who wants to engage this way, and then hopefully we scale in different directions.
And you're socially distanced.
Yes, definitely that.
I think everybody wants to engage in it.
Yeah.
Socially distant art forms.
That's right. With letters. Wow. Letters.
I'll keep looking out there to see what other people are doing as well. But it's been very interesting hearing from West and Shelley, and also from Molly and Rusty. I want to thank you guys so much. West and Shelley, the name of your company, Artistic Stamp? No, what is it?
Yeah, Artistic Stamp. And thank you, Bob, so much for inviting us. I did one of these panels last year with NYMF. I loved it, and I'm honored.
Yeah, in person,
Yeah.
in a theater, actually. It was nice meeting you back then, and it's good seeing you now. Molly and Rusty, also thank you very much.
Thank you. This has been really fun.
Thank you.
Real-time interventions. So we're going to be sending this out to everybody that was here today. And who knows, maybe we'll connect you with some of the people who are here today. And hopefully you'll be part of our community, and we'll be part of your community. Very much into connecting.
Can we get on your mailing list? I'm waiting in Connecticut with the butterflies, and I could get letters. That'll be so exciting.
We love it.
So everybody, I just want to thank you all for being with me today. I want to also remind you that we do this for free. This is the pitch every week. We do this for free. However, it's tough times. It's COVID. We have a lot of things that we're struggling with as a company, and all not-for-profits are, not just for TRU, but for all not-for-profit companies that you like and you support. If you can give financial support, it's really, really welcome by us. It's by all of the other companies as well. We know that you might be limited in what you can give. I never ask anybody to pour from an empty pitcher. Never try to pour from an empty pitcher. But if your pitcher is even half full, anything you could donate would be appreciated. If Jay is here, I hope Jay will put into our chat our donation button and our membership button. We're a membership organization, and we'd love to have you as members if you want to consider that as well.